Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I just seen an article, just had a little read of Clarion Hugh, and it's annoyed me a little bit. I wanted to talk about it, hence mobile phone footage. It's the best you're going to get, so you're just going to have to put up with it really. And the article was saying that there's friction perhaps between David Moyes and David Sullivan. They're arguing, they're disagreeing on how to go about getting a centre-back into the club, and it's hindering their ability to get the centre-back in. We know that it's the number one target for David Moyes. Well, that position is number one target. I just want to discuss it a little bit because it's starting to worry me. We know the transfer deadline is on Monday. It's a few days away, and we've got most of our transfer kitty left to spend, and I'd be surprised if we get more in, to be honest with you. I think we'll get a centre-back in eventually, but who picks that centre-back is the question here, and that's the issue. Now, we've just gone and signed Kufal. Now, I'm aware that's not how you pronounce the name, all right? People have been correcting me. I'm not even sure the correct pronunciation because they all try and spell it, and they all spell it differently. Sufal, I think, is Sufal. I think they're trying to say is how you pronounce the name. But Gonzalo's been calling Pablo Fornals Paulo for the last year. So I'm going to stick with my incorrect pronunciation for now. So we've signed him for $5 million today. That was announced earlier. And this sort of ties into it a little bit because you start to wonder, well, who's chosen him? We know he was recommended to the club by Thomas Souček. We know that. But who's then gone, yeah, all right, let's go get him? Because it seemed that we were sort of putting the right back on the back burner given Ben Johnson's form post-lockdown and Fredericks' form this season. It's kind of understandable, really. And then obviously the injuries prompted us to go and get him, an emergency sign, if you like. We know the manager likes to go and watch these players before buying them. He's not gone and watched Vladimir. I'm just going to call him Vladimir from now on, all right? You can't argue about that. So he's come in, and maybe Moyes has given the final say. Moyes has claimed he's got the final say on every single transfer. So I'm just going to go with the assumption that it's an easy fit for West Ham. We've gone with Thomas Souček's pointing us in a direction. We've watched tapes, as David Sullivan calls it, and we've liked what we've seen. We've looked at his stats, we've looked at his analytics, and thought, yeah, this guy is who we want. Since he's signed, I've seen Souček saying that he runs constantly. He constantly just runs around and covers 11 to 12 kilometres per game. That's ticking the boxes of our manager. We know that. He's coming in to play a wing-back role. Anyway, to the centre-back problem. The article just basically said that David Moyes is refusing to sign agent-given players, if you like. And the players that Moyes wants, his shortlist, his wish list perhaps, we know that James Tarkowski was top of it. We know that the Fiorentina centre-back was, by the looks of it, was second on that list. But we can't afford them, or we can't agree terms with them. Or they simply just don't want to come to West Ham United. Now, there's a couple of problems here. I'm not Moyes' biggest fan in terms of games, but I agree with his stance here. I completely agree that we should not be buying players because it suits the agent. It's such a backwards way of doing transfers. I don't know why he'd ever go down that route. But we have done. We've got bitten by it time and time again. And while Sullivan was complaining about how we've misspent transfer money just 2 weeks ago on TalkSport, here he is trying to do a method which has cost the club millions over his tenure at West Ham United. Why he would still continue to go down there, I do know. He's helping his mates out, isn't he? So for Moyes to say, no, I'm not wanting those centre-backs, I do not want your agent centre-backs, I think is a good thing. I think it's a really, really good thing. And I've always wondered, is there such a thing as paying too much for the perfect signing for your manager? Now, I know you're going to say, yes, of course, would you pay $100 million for Tarkowski? Well, obviously not. But if it's $35 million, and apparently they wanted $40 million, is that $5 million worth your manager having to settle for maybe his fifth choice centre-back compared to his first choice? I'm not so sure it is. Over the years in the Premier League, you'll often see a signing. You might look at it, and I'm using the Premier League as an example because it's the only one I have decent knowledge of, and that's questionable, but it's the only one I pay massive attention to. Everton is a good example. I remember when Richarlison went to Everton for 50 million, a lot of people scoffed at it. Oh, wow, that's a lot of money. But is it too much money if it's the perfect player for that position? It's the way Liverpool have gone about their business in the last few years, I think. When they signed Sadio Mane as well, again, a lot of people thought, oh, that's a hefty fee. But if he fitted what Klopp wants to do perfectly, is there such a thing as overpaying? Yes, obviously there is. But when it comes to Tarkowski, if he is exactly what David Moyes wants, is that $5 million really worth saving $5 million for? I'm not so sure it is, and I can completely understand why our manager is getting frustrated because we've lost games in the Premier League, whereas if we had a slightly better centre-back, Would we have done better? Well, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say that Moyes has been wanting to play three at the back all season. And the reason we started with four at the back is because he hadn't got the centre-back he required in order to shift to three at the back. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think you have to give him the benefit of the doubt as well. And then the argument would come that, well, had we got the centre-back earlier on in the transfer window, Moyes would have been able to kick off the season against Newcastle with the new formation that we're seeing now. He would have been able to play that. I can understand that Moyes is livid with David Sullivan, to be honest with you, for dragging this out for so long. And Sullivan needs to change here. I do believe he's the one in the wrong. I understand not everyone wants to come to West Ham, and you've got to question if there are players just flatly refusing to come. There's a few reasons for that. Either A, they just don't want to join West Ham United, or for whatever reason, and B, they don't necessarily want to play under the manager. The reason I'm saying that is because 2 weeks ago when the Talk Sport thing came out, sorry, let me move hand. My arm is dead holding that phone. That's like a workout. When the Talk Sport thing came out, and I spoke to someone, and they said that it's not good at the minute. Between manager and chairman, it's not a good thing right now, and the players Moyes wants don't want to play for Moyes, or they just don't want to come to West Ham United, and then, or they can't afford them. And then the players that Sullivan could get in, Moyes just doesn't want them. So they're butting heads, if you like. Neither of them are really wanting to give way. Sullivan's struggling to give Moyes what he wants, and Moyes doesn't want what Sullivan can give him. But someone's got to compromise a bit more than the other one at the minute. We're running out of time. This is serious now. The transfer deadline is on Monday. And what worries me is on the Talk Sport, Sullivan threw that thing in that he gets, what did he say, gets to pest more and more every day, and that he alluded that we might not sign anyone. And at the bottom of this Clown Who article, who we know have got really good contacts, we can take a educated guess as to where this information's come from. It says at the bottom that, Moyes and Sullivan are going to leave no stone unturned, but in the article very much suggests there's a possibility we will not sign a centre-back. I think we will, but it's what centre-back is starting to concern me now a little bit, because if Moyes at some point is going to have to accept that Sullivan will not give him his number one target, he won't even get his number 2 or 3. Unfortunately, Moyes is going to have to come down his short list, his wish list, until there's someone that David Sullivan that can actually go out and purchase and give him for the rest of the season. If he remains too stubborn, he's got two options. Either A, he gets no centre-back, because Sullivan can't get in the ones he wants, or B, he gets given a David Sullivan centre-back, and then he either has to make do, or he just doesn't play him. And we then got a £20 million, roughly, £20 million centre-back, sat on the bench doing nothing, and that's just a waste of money. I think Moyes is almost the one that's going to have to try and compromise here a little bit and say, look, I'm not happy about this. This is the one I'll take, though. I will take this guy, because the other two scenarios scare me a lot, and I think both of them are possible. I think it's possible we end up with none, or it's possible that we end up with one of David Sullivan's chosen choices. And Moyes is showing us in both his tenures here that he will not play players he does not trust. Now, I criticise Moyes a lot for his lack of substitutions, okay, because I do believe it hinders us. However, I don't think he trusts the players on his bench. And come Sunday against Leicester, it's going to be hard to disagree with David Moyes when, if we're losing, he turns around and he's got, let's just say, he's got Felipe Anderson on there, he's got Lanzini on there, and he looks at them and thinks, I don't really want to put them on. Do I trust them to do a job that Bowen and Fornals currently aren't? No. So the last thing you want is to give David Moyes a centre-back, cost him quite a lot of money, bearing in mind we're now at the desperate stage, that he doesn't trust. It's possible that Moyes will turn around and look at his team in training and think, you know what, I'm going to stick with Diop, Ogbonna and Creswell, or Balbuena, Diop and Ogbonna. I'm going to stick with those three. I trust them. I trust them more than that guy that David Sullivan's brought in. We could end up with a very expensive mistake on our hands if these two people don't sort things out. Someone's got to compromise. They've got to compromise soon. But aside with David Moyes on this, it's time to stop these agent-driven deals into West Ham United. I think Vladimir's half and half. I think it's probably an emergency signing of convenience, if you like. If it doesn't work out, it's a low-risk transfer. Vladimir, I think, £5 million, a 3-year deal for a 28-year-old. It's good business by us, actually. We're stopping these stupid 5-year contracts. His wages are 30 grand a week, apparently. It's very low risk, okay? So that's clever business. Even if it doesn't work out, even if it's a disaster of a transfer, it's not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. But this centre-back position worries me a bit because Moyes needs a centre-back in. It's been obvious all summer, well, I say all summer, the second half of the summer, if you like, that's been obvious that a centre-back is what he wants. As soon as Diangana was gone, that was it. We were in, offering £30 million for centre-back. And that's what your manager wants. That's what you've got to go get him. But you can't just get him any centre-back. You've got to get him a centre-back that he trusts, in my opinion, that he will use and will be a key part of our defence for the rest of the season. Anyway, that's all I've got to say, really. A mini rant, but it was up there. I seen that article and I thought, oh, because the transfer window shuts on Monday. It's looming. And our activity is just going to get more and more. And I'm a bit concerned, if you like, as to which one's going to come in. I do think we'll sign a centre-back, by the way. I'm quite confident we will. I think Sullivan will leave it to the last minute, and if he needs to get one of his own players in, he will, in order to say, I've backed my manager. I feel like Moyes is under the bus, by the way. I think he'd done it in a TalkSport interview, and I think the article, to be fair to Claret Hugh, was a 50-50 one. It was very much that Sullivan's at fault as well as David Moyes, but I do feel it was a bit more inclined that, well, it's not just Sullivan's fault that we're not getting players in, it's the manager as well. Anyway, drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We've got the preview of the Leicester game going up tonight, so hopefully you can come back and enjoy that, and I'll catch up with you soon.